Hello there, everybody. It's Chad from Colorado Giants on behalf of the Rocky Mountain Giant vegetable growers. Tonight we are going to be interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, Jim Ford, one of the most unique growers in the pumpkin world, an all-around nice guy, famous for his shenanigans, and most recently accidentally growing some massive orange pumpkins that go ridiculously heavy. So hopefully we'll be able to strong arm Jim into giving us some information. I apologize for being a few minutes late. Kids, if you're a parent, you know what I'm saying. Kids. So if you have questions tonight, go ahead, ask them here in the chat over this direction. We'll get to them. I have a few questions lined up that I'm trying to bring up as we speak, and my internet is not cooperating with me because kids. So I think I'm just going to skip right to Jim while I fiddle with this. Everybody, please welcome Jim Ford. Jim, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here.
So, Jim, what is your neck of the woods like this time of the year? It looks really dark there. Cold, snow, ice.
I'm in the basement. It's been warm, but that's going to change tomorrow. We're supposed to be below zero the next couple nights. But over the weekend, we had some days that were like mid 40s, close to 50. It was gorgeous, but yeah, so far we've had a mild fall.
Same. It's been here in Colorado. Let's see, what's today? Today's Tuesday. All weekend we had almost in the 60s, and today we really struggled to get out of the 20s. It's been, I'm not going to complain. It's been pretty nice. I don't like freezing my buns off. So, Jim, tell us, when you are not growing giant pumpkins, what is it that you're doing?
I call myself an intellectual who's not too intelligent. I like to be intellectually stimulated. I listen to podcasts. I drive a lot. On my work, I'm in pest control. So I tell people I drive for a living and I do pest control on the side. So I'm listening to things, theological stuff, social stuff, political. I listened to a guy named John Kemp. There's a lot of growing stuff. So I'm all over the place, and my faith is important to me. And I'm married, have 2 adult kids, and 2 grandkids, and grandkids are the best you could. My grandson is going on 3.5 years, and I haven't changed one diaper. So that's
Nice.
How many did you change today, Chad?
Oh man, I like three or four, like 6. But my oldest is 6 years ago. This wasn't like you couldn't see my scalp hiding underneath the hair there, and now it is just skin poking through, not so much hair.
Yeah,
gotta love them.
Yeah.
Do you have any other hobbies other than giant pumpkin growing?
I also enjoy growing giant pumpkins too.
I see.
Back in the day, I used to try to be a hunter. I used to be a big pheasant hunter when I was younger, but now I like listening to podcasts and growing giant pumpkins and having fun with my pumpkin pals throughout the world.
So I'm looking you up on Pumpkin Fanatic right now, trying to see. Let's see here. How back does Ford go? Maybe 2000 and there probably was more than one Fords, but I see a 2012. How long have you been growing? Oh, there's a 2003. How long have you been growing giant pumpkins?
Well, I just want you to know that I'm not Bob Ford. Someone a couple of years ago asked me if I still had any seeds from my world record pumpkin. And I go, wrong Ford, so don't get me mixed up with him. Maybe this year, Travis, I could have that world record, that WR behind my name. But so I've been going close to 25 years now. I started off in New Hampshire. Jim Kuhn was my first mentor back in the day. There's still some good growers in New Hampshire. But the New Hampshire Club was back 20 years ago. Any old timers would say this is true. We were the club to be feared. So, but I was a wannabe. I was a goofy, and I had a lot of people. Charlie Houghton, Bruce Whittier, including one of my mentors.
So 25 years. Try to take us back 25 years ago. What were some of the things that were accepted to be the new hotness or cutting edge back then that today just seem ridiculous?
Well, if you get my book, you'll find out some things of my history of my of the past in the pumpkin world. Back in the day, there was this talk of, we haven't rehearsed these questions or answers. We used to do calcium reps on pumpkins. We would take calcium and soaked in a calcium solution and throw it right on the pumpkin because that calcium was going to soak into the pumpkin. And then there was this thing called colchicine that if you do some research on it, there's I've never done it. It's a very dangerous substance, but it literally changes the chromosomes in certain plants. I think the orchid growers use it too. So maybe in the next couple of years, that could be the next hot topic instead of fluorel. Colchicine. Look it up, everybody.
Colchicine, interesting. So maybe the equivalent-ish of 25 years ago to a fluorel or anthesis.
But we're talking about changing the DNA of the seed itself right off the bat. But that practice went nowhere.
So I just heard you mention this book. Jim, tell us about this book and perhaps your ponderings.
My ponderings. Let me think about it. So I wrote this book about 20 years ago, a first edition, and I got an idea from a hunting book called Life from a Tree Stand or something like that. And I basically just copied it. My first book, I had pencil sketches. I had someone, I'm not an artist, I had someone. And so it's just taking my faith and getting analogies of growing, and I don't have to stretch them that hard. So this edition, I updated it to be more historically updated, and I added another chapter to it, and I correct some of the through someone who is a retired English teacher from my church. She helped me correct all the grammar mistakes from the first edition. So, but I'm only growing for giant pumpkins growers, so I don't have to be that.
So is your book like is it a how-to, or is it for beginners, advanced?
It is not a how-to. You won't even learn how to sand a seed. It is all analogies of my faith, and yeah, I throw my faith in there with my growing pumpkins, my two passions in life, my heavenly passion and my earthly passion, and but all under the umbrella of my heavenly passion. So
awesome. And if anybody wants to buy your book, Jim, where Where can they find this thing?
You could go on Amazon or on my Facebook page. I have one. I don't even know what these things are called. What are one of those
QR
things?
code.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I'm the type of guy. If it wasn't for my wife, I would still have a rotary phone. Um, so yeah, you could go on Amazon, go on my website. I have one of those on there, and it's pretty painless. So
Awesome.
thanks for asking.
We got a couple of questions that I'm going to sprinkle in here with my own. Accurate Pumpkin Clodhopper. What do you do with your giants after the weigh-offs, Jim?
The last several years, I've been fortunate to find people who actually wanted to pay some money for them. So um, I I've sold them and I've gotten the seeds back. I have to do a lot of effort to get the seeds back, and yeah, I've been selling them the last couple of years, kind of supporting the habit, so to speak.
It always helps. It's nice.
Yeah,
It
my
is
wife can't say this pumpkin growing is too expensive. No, I mean,
Yeah.
compared to a lot of other sports hobbies.
Another question. What is for dinner tonight from me? Tonight is Costco pizza and a hot dog. My wife had to take our daughter to the doctor, strep throat again, as I cough. So Costco hot dog and pizza, the best deal that you can get out there. Costco hot dog and pizza, not a sponsor yet. Let's see here, Scott. Is there anything you are specifically adding or avoiding 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after pollination? That's a good question.
Yep. I would say avoiding adding. I'm pretty standard. Whatever I do, I know back in the day, and I know probably a lot of people say, "Oh, be careful of the nitrogen around pollination. You get aborts." I've never had that problem. I don't use. I use a lot of organic forms of nitrogen, so it's slow release, and other forms of nitrogen. Um, but I um, This year, I played around with calcium and amino acids, and that everyone uses amino acids in one way, shape, or form. Um, but no, I basically do the same thing.
Okay, so nothing specific that that it's in your day to day that you're like, I need to stop this specific thing because it's before or after.
No, I've had good luck with pollinations over the last several years, and I tell you, I would say 3/4 of my plants, I only set one pumpkin on each plant. I don't do the two or three on a plant. I got that idea from Steve Geddes about 6 or 7 years ago, and I remember talking to Steve Delitas about it. He goes, "That's the craziest thing I ever heard." And so you have two Steves on both coasts who've grown some big pumpkins, have different ways of doing it. But I've been fortunate. Last couple years, I've, I can't think of any aborts I've had over the years. So.
Nice. Scott says an unintellectual intellectual.
Yeah, yeah, that's who I am. I liken myself as and I don't like basketball. I don't play basketball. I was never good at it, but I liken myself as a guy who is passionate about basketball, but is only like 5'2" and 350 pounds. But I love my basketball.
Kind of looks like a basketball. All right, so let's rewind just a little bit here. I know you recently have moved to a new pumpkin patch. Was that this grow year 2024 or was that 2023 or maybe even 2022?
It was almost exactly 3 years ago I moved to this area, and so I've been growing. My first summer, I didn't grow. I just grew cover crops and mended the patch. And last 2 years, I've been growing here. So I've been in Wisconsin for like 10, 11 years altogether. But I moved like an hour and a half north, this west of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. If anyone knows where that's at.
And looking at bigpumpkins.com at all of your grows, it really looks like the last few years, you've been a really good grower. But let's see, I think your first 2,000 pounder was 2020 at the 2015 Ford.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, growing for 25 years, what have you done the last 3 or 4 years, especially this year, right? That has kind of given you the kick in the buns to get to that really good grower to I don't know what the word is, elite, like just the next level. Is there anything specifically that you think you can call out that's like, that really helped?
Sometimes it's not what you do, is what you don't do. First of all, when I grew in New Hampshire, I'm originally from Chicago, from the Midwest, and they said it was a hill where I lived on. Where I'm from in the Midwest, it was a mountain, and so I had a shorter growing season, and so I just think not growing in New Hampshire helped, and I've learned over the years. But in my book, the number one question I get from my book, because I do mention something in my book that I stopped doing a certain practice, and all of a sudden I started getting pumpkins to the way off, and that started in 2020. And that one thing I didn't mention in the book, but that one thing is I quit. I came out of the blocks 2 or 3 years really good, man. I mean, back in like 2017, I was on pace early. I'm like, I got 3 2,000-pound pumpkins here, and by the end of the year, I had nothing go to the scale. And what I was doing, see, like most pumpkin growers, we have a personality disorder. I think most of us are probably OCD in some way. But I hate weeds. I hate weeds, and I got a little too creative with weed control, using certain herbicides around my patch, until I realized, and I was very careful in how I sprayed, but stay away from dicamba and 2,4-D, even around your patch, even if you're careful, because that stuff actually evaporates, volatilizes, and will affect your pumpkins. And I accidentally found that out, and I think I would have had at least 3 more good years under my belt if it wasn't for that thing I was doing. So
Interesting.
So yeah, I think that was so. Stop doing stupid things around your patch.
So on that note, have you ever done weed fabric for weed control? Thoughts on it, if you have, or not?
I watched this one guy's YouTube channel this year. He laid some white stuff.
Oh.
It was very well written.
It was a fabulous weed enhancer.
So no, I don't. I am very fortunate in this patch I am right now. My seed bank is unbelievably low. I probably could count on 2 hands how many purslane plants. I don't know how many people, if you guys get purslane, I hate that weed. My biggest weed I have right now is chickweed, and it grows really good underneath the canopy. It just creeps, and I'm starting to think, I've done some research, sometimes those companion plants, I don't, what's a companion plant? What's an antagonistic plant? I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe I should just keep them growing in there instead of being so neurotic about it. But no, I haven't used any reed fabric, and I do I believe in cultivating, not weeding. So
okay.
you don't know the difference, look it up.
And with your experience in pest control, how important is, when you're using these herbicides and insecticides, like, is the old kind of shirt over the nose, is that good enough, or what would you recommend?
I don't know if my state inspector is watching. I when I use my mist blower, I play the wind a lot, so I probably should be a little more protective, even on the job. I'm almost 70. Pardon me, I'm saying, uh, I'm about ready to kick the bucket soon here anyhow. So, but no, I should probably be a little more careful. But I probably around um, pesticides more at work than I am at that.
Interesting. And can you tell us about your patch as a whole? I know the answer to this question, but maybe people don't. Do you grow in a greenhouse? How big of a grow area do you have? Kind of, is it shaded, full sun, on the moon?
I do not grow in a greenhouse, and will never grow in a greenhouse. Not that I don't want to, but I want to stay married. So my probably a lot of people see my patch. People say, "You got a beautiful patch. You got beautiful." My wife thinks it's the ugliest thing in the world. Like, there, you got these ugly plants, and sometimes I have 5-gallon buckets of stuff, and she's a very visual person. So um, I don't grow in a greenhouse. What was your question specifically?
Just describe your grow area for us. Is it
Okay, so I grow 3 plants, and not I think the last 2 years I don't think I've had a plant over 1,000 square feet. I'm going to try to up that a little bit more this year, maybe close to 1,200. But I love my vegetable gardening also. But I think I'm gonna cut back on my vegetables this year. You got to throw a couple tomatoes in for your BLT. Summer isn't summer without a BLT. So 3 plants.
okay? And how big of a plant? Well, you said 1,000 square feet. Question I was trying to ask is, what vine pattern do you use? Are you a Christmas tree man, Moby Mike, spider, waterfall method?
I'm a firm believer, kind of like Moby Mike. And last year I cut off my main vine at the fruit. This year I didn't. I let the main vine go. Um, what I like doing is taking my um, first several side vines and bring them back. Uh, but I don't let them grow long. Like first of all I trim at least 2 off around the basal crown area, and I concentrate on getting that main vine to grow. And my first side vine that I let grow is only about 2 or 3 feet long. My next one is maybe 3 or 4 feet, because those are the ones that go at the end of the season. So I'm like, I learned this from Alex Noel. He has that diamond pattern. You it goes in the corner of his patch, and it does this. It's bigger, and why grow those big long vines next to the basal crown when mid-August they're toast anyhow? And my thought is
Medicine for us.
those vines are in a different zip code than the pumpkin, and I just use those to get the main vine going. So I hope that answers your question.
Interesting. So you like the diamond pattern then?
Yeah, but I sweep my vines back, and then I almost it kind of looks like Moby Mike's a little bit, but
Yeah.
then in the newer part of the plant, I try to keep as much fresh growth around the pumpkin as possible, and even tertiaries, to fill in the spaces. So I really believe that it's important to have fresh, young growth towards the end of the season.
There's a grower here called Mark. His name is Mark Sautel, and he grows in a giant square. And all 4 pumpkins start in the middle, and they do the diamond pattern. And I remember when I first started 10 years ago, everybody thought it was kind of like cuckoo bananas to do a diamond pattern like that. And now, it's becoming less and less weirdo and more like, you think about it, like everything you just said, like that makes sense. You want the vines nearest the pumpkin to be the youngest, the biggest, pushing the most juice. So it's something that actually is quite logical. Mark was
when I saw Alex Noel's diagram, I was going 15, 20, like that makes all the sense in the world. Like that's so, to me, that was so elemental. Like, yeah. So,
Joel wants to know, while we're talking about pumpkin patches, what does your irrigation setup look like? Are you overhead, drip tape?
this year, I want to write it down. You want to grow 26% heavy, you got to use drip tape. This is the first year I've used drip tape. I've worked on produce farms before. 1 year working at a farm, I laid 20 miles of drip tape. So I know how to set it up. I could never figure out how to use it in my pumpkin patch. I think you, Chad, like you lay out all your drip irrigation at the beginning of the year. I just look at that and I just my brain goes tilt. Like, how do you? It just. So I used drip this year for the first time. It was a pain to set it up. And it always got in my way. But I tell you, by early August, I go, I'm watering. I'm never not going back. So, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit more, but
right,
patience the way to go.
So, what do you think? What having you're the best person to ask. Having it done it for the first time. What do you think was the biggest benefit to it once you got past the annoyance of setting it up?
So it could be 80, 85 degrees out. I'm watering my plant in the sun, and I'm not cooling my plant off.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm watering. The plant's not getting chilled. The leaves are not getting wet, and it's drinking. It's getting a suntan, and write that down. Plants get suntans, and drinking it up, and plus I didn't have to cover my pumpkin. Pumpkin didn't get wet, and I was watering up to 4 or 5 times a day, and tried doing that with overhead. And I know some people do it. I know Travis does it. So yeah. So
I thought that was pretty fascinating when we had the Paytons on. I want to say that they said they watered a dozen times a day, but just in small amounts to keep the available nutrients just right there, like all the time. Like,
yeah,
percent of the time, food's right there.
In a sense, I know technically this isn't correct, but you're almost doing hydroponics in soil. You're
Right.
always like a solution right at the roots there. So
super, super interesting stuff for sure. Man, we got a lot of questions coming in. Holy moly. I asked, you guys answered. This one's worth mentioning again. How do you get the book? Go to Jim's Facebook page. And it's on there. And it is
yeah,
Jim's pumpkin ponderings, right?
Yeah, Jim Ford. Just put Jim Ford ponderings pumpkin on on Amazon. It'll come up.
Andrew said, get back out there and get some of those ditch chickens. What is your favorite thing about growing pumpkins?
This is one of them. Just talking to other pumpkin growers, the camaraderie, the fun with other growers. Just this is all about having fun. If it's not fun, go find another hobby. But come on, let's face it. You take a seed that big, and then you need a forklift coming in your yard to pick it up and put it on the pallet. I mean,
it is really cool.
And this, I like my customers. I'll tell them I'm a pumpkin grower. How heavy, and I always like playing this game with them, and some of it don't appreciate it, and they'll start off. So, how heavy you think my heaviest pumpkin is? 50 pounds? And you're like, come on, 50-pound pump. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's 40. So, yeah. So,
and you're famous for you and Mike having a good time with one another. We have to acknowledge that Jim and Mike are good friends, and like they said, they both like me and Brad and Jason here in Colorado. It is about the camaraderie. It is about having fun, and you can poke fun at somebody and be friendly, and it's a friendly competition. It's not getting the knives out and shanking one another or anything like that. It's all in good fun.
Brenda Oft, who's our treasurer at our club here in Wisconsin, she says me and Mike have a romance together. So I like calling it more toxic masculine.
Definitely. Carrie, what would you say is the most valuable piece of advice you received in your 25 years of growing?
From Jerry Rose about 25 years ago. Keep your plants as healthy as you could for the longest amount of time. Keep them healthy. Keep them healthy all the way to the end. Now, how do you do that? Is Chad's first book. He's going to write about that.
Yes. Now, follow-up question to that. What do you think, and do you do, or not do rather, vine burying? Do you go the stealth method and not bury your vines with the hope of having a super healthy plant at the end of the year? Contrary to what 95% of the growers do and say, and in that you have to bury your vines.
Well, first of all, Dave Stelz doesn't know these things, so I wouldn't tell you. So I've adopted. I have good drainage where I am right now. Some parts of my patch actually have a gravel base, and it's high up. Even though we had a lot of rain earlier this year, my patch was not in standing water. Some parts of my backyard, I was sloshing around in water, literally sloshing.
Wow.
So I'm just going to tell you what I've been doing the last 2 years. I haven't done any fungicide drenches in the last 2 years. I've been relying on my biology, and that's a topic in itself. There's so much we don't know about biology. So I've been trying to keep my soil healthy through biology and not doing any drenches. Last year I used no fungicides. This year I had to do a couple topicals for some powdery mildew. I didn't want to do it because I think to every solution there's a side effect, and so keeping the soil healthy is, I think, very important. And this year, I didn't even use any insecticide trenches. Just all foliar.
You just have that insects are naturally intimidated by you because you have the stench of millions of dead insects on you.
Insects, I know how to control insects.
So just tinkering asked, and this is something that I'm fascinated with this year, that we can lump into a larger question other than how do you feel about azos and mycos? Let's open that up to biology in general.
Okay, so I want to get very scientific here. I'm hearing no. Okay, I'm hearing those. Feeling how I feel about it, or what I believe about it. But I understand the question. I believe in both of them. Yep, I believe in both. Do we still have volume here?
I muted myself. I'm getting out my Costco hot dogs.
Okay, you want no chomping on the. So yeah, I believe in both of them, and that there's so much about biology that we don't understand. It- these critters are not only communicating to the plant; they're talking to each other through mechanisms, and I rely a lot on biology. I don't use it's stuff everyone's a lot of people have been using it for 48 hours. I used it 1 year. Fluorel, and people have good success with Fluorel. Uh, I believe the plants and the biology produces all those compounds and volatiles that signal to the plant to do what they're doing. So I let my biology take care of it.
Interesting. So when somebody asks you, like, are you a believer in biology and whatnot, like Geddes? I know Geddes is not a big biological guy, but you are, yes, to all of it.
Yeah, and I respect Geddes, uh, and basically he grows, in all practicality, he grows hydroponic at same soil. I've been to the patch a couple times, I'm sure, and yeah, and but I let my biology. A couple years ago, for several years, I used Ohio. I think it was Ohio Group that had this nutrient wheel of friendly nutrients and antagonistic calcium and phosphorus and this and that. And I used to keep like my phosphorus based days of fertilizing, my calcium based. I kept them separate. Um, Now I just put it together and I said, you microbes, you you guys make these things available. And the last couple of years I haven't, especially this year. I just dumped it all in my tank. I don't dump it in a small container and then into my tank. I add my nutrients, one nutrient at a time.
Now, and that is my next question for you is, can you tell us about your fertilization program in whatever detail you so choose?
This is one thing I refuse to tell people when they start asking me about rates. Even with insecticides, I'm not going to give you. You got to do your homework. I can tell you what I'm using, but I, last thing I want to hear is, yeah, Jim Ford told me to put down 4 ounces, and the next day my plant was dead. I'm not going to give you rates. And for another reason is I'm kind of a glug guy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, I I try to be as scientific as possible, but I've been doing this for 20 years. It's kind of like um, you know Michelangelo. He didn't paint by numbers. He's just he, you know he just painted what he saw in his brain. but the last couple of years I've been using EC, soil and solution, and pH. So the whole ball of wax, I'm measuring that, um, and I'm just reading my plants. So
That's awesome. And for anybody who's interested, I just took in the chat, and I will pin it. Or Jason, if you could you pin it? Ooh, that's really long. Jason, could you go to Amazon and pin Jim's book on there for me? Just Amazon Ponderings from the Patch, and you'll be able to find it and pin it in there, because you can get it off of Amazon right now for $12.95. You could support Jim. It arrives before Christmas, it says. Makes a great stocking stuffer. Reading for the missus before she goes to bed, so she can help you grow the giant pumpkin.
and the thing is, I do not see those books. There's not a warehouse with 80 boxes of Jim's book right there. They print it to order. I don't know how they do that.
Really? That's on demand? Like a book is demand printed?
Yeah, and some people say they have it within 3 or 4 days. So it's not like you know. And if you want me to sign it, I don't know why I have people. Will you sign me? I'm like, really? Like, really? You want? It shocked me. I never even thought that people want me to sign the book. Adam Tavoyak has one of one, so I think that's going for like $2,551 right now. So
I'm gonna buy it right now, and I will report in. Place your order now. Wow.
And if you bring it to Green Bay, I'll sign it in Green Bay if you want to sign it.
I will. And spoiler alert: Jim will be at Green Bay at the GPC Big Show. Future episode, we're going to have Mark on to talk about the GPC Big Show. Hey Maxwell, can you turn that down, please? Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there? I know you're helping out with him. Sell it to us, Jim. Why should we come out to beautiful, warm Green Bay in March?
You have cheese curds, and we fry it. So cheese curds for everybody. I heard Chris Rodabaugh is going to be buying cheese curds for everybody, and Jim Sherwood, he said he was, and Travis, they go to California, get all that prize money, and they said they're gonna buy cheese curds for everybody. So cheese curds,
Cheese for everybody.
Cheese curds. No, we're going to have some good speakers. There's been several of us working on topics and speakers, and I think you guys can enjoy it. So, yeah.
I will say I was at the last one at Lambeau, and that airport, the local airport there is the only airport where the selection of cheese was my takeaway from visiting that airport. Like, how was that little airport that you were out in Green Bay? I'm like, there was Green Bay stuff and cheese everywhere. It was quite interesting.
Number one cheese producer. So.
And the cheese was delicious. It wasn't oversold. It was very good.
And and honestly, a lot of people have commented over the last several years, like, what are you guys doing in Wisconsin? We have the most 2,000-pound pumpkins grown in any other state, and I guess a state that grows good cheese grows good pumpkins. So we're a fun group. We like each other. We have fun with each other. We compete against each other. So we'll come and get some Midwest hospitality in Green Bay.
I dig it. So we've talked about biology. We talked about your watering, your grow area, your fertilizers. On that same vein, 60-second tech, do you use CO2?
Yeah, I let all my organic matter decompose in the soil, and They say produce your CO2. No, I'm in a forum with some growers, and all last year they were talking about CO2, CO2. Unless you're growing in a greenhouse, I'm like, so. It was funny. I did buy a cheap CO2 meter, and it worked very well. And when they were in my hoop houses, it's amazing how high the CO2. I pegged out the meter at 5,000. And I was experimenting. I was using these mesh baskets with compost, with biology, and so I was so. No, I don't add any CO2.
Okay. Do you use and recommend a specific brand of fertilizer that you think is better than something else?
This one has changed over the years, especially the last couple of years. I have been people ask me, so what's happened, especially this year, and I have to admit that I am sponsored by Kelp for Less, and I get some good consulting from them too. And I, they've been very, very generous with me. So I use a lot of their products, their biological products, their fertilizer, their crab meal, everything, their amino acids. And to be honest with you, I go down, I don't know, other parts of the country, but in the Midwest, we have a big box store like Home Depot called Menards. I go to Menards and I buy the water soluble Schultz tomato fertilizer, and basically Miracle Grow. So I use quite a bit of water soluble also.
Now, how do you water that in? Do you have like a mixing tank or an injector, or how do
No,
you?
I have a big 300, 280, 300 gallon tote, and I have a circulating pump in there, and I dissolve everything, and I circulate it, and everything goes through that. So, and sometimes I'll do some foliar. I did more foliar this year than I normally do, but 95% of the nutrients are going to be soaked up through. So,
Robert would like to know, maybe Robert's a newer grower. What is the best thing to hit the 1,000-pound mark?
I would say basic gardening. Keep your weeds down. You got to keep your insects down. That's the thing that gets young, newer growers is they'll put it out there and they don't know this thing called a cucumber beetle, and they'll decimate your plant again. So do some research. This basic gardening stuff. Keep the weeds down. Do a little bit of vine management, and a couple years ago, there was a local guy here, and he almost got a 1,000-pounder, and I gave him one of my 1935s. I think it was like 950 pounds, and we went to Menards. Everything, the big box store is this, and but keep your plants free of insects and disease to research on.
Gotcha. Just tinkering. Maybe he has some pumpkins he wants to sell. How do you first make contact with your pumpkin buyers? I think that's a legit question. Some people have giant pumpkins, they want to sell them. How do you make that relationship, Jim?
So, the guy who's been buying most of my pumpkins the last couple of years, he got my name through the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers, and he got a hold of me. So, So yeah, I'm not going to give you business advice on how to sell your company. So yeah, they'll find you. I'm not really aggressive, and just hey, I got this 1,500-pound pumpkin. Want to buy it? So
It's kind of a pain in the butt. Patrick's Plants and Animals question. Is there a benefit to foliar feeding? You just said that you did more foliar feeding this year. So why?
So I'm the only person I know who's done this. This is very, very risky, especially I've done it last couple of years. Earlier in the season, we got 20 inches of rain in 2 months. And
Wow.
it was at May and June or something like you don't get that in 20 years, right? So I'll take, and this is not technically foliar feeding, I'll take whatever I put in that 280-gallon tank, I put in the back of my backpack. And I look at my radar, and I make sure it's raining, and I'll just spray on top of the plant and let the water, the rain wash it in. But technically, that's not foliar. This year, I experimented with amino acids and calcium and some other goodies early on in the fruit's life to force the uptake of calcium. We do some research on amino acids, calcium, and one of the guys who's going to be speaking at Green Bay is a big proponent of Harley Smith, that amino acids actually opens up calcium ion channels and calcium flows into the plant. So did that contribute to 26% heavy? Yeah, I think maybe.
Interesting.
Sure didn't hurt it.
Adam, we got some competition. Adam is willing to sell his autographed book, One of One, for $75,000. He knows what he has.
Yeah. I say take it before it goes up in price.
Oh, and Mark Sautel. Mark. Hi, Mark. Just talking about you. Are you the real Santa Claus disguised as a pumpkin grower? Could be.
Hey, before we get any further into this, I want to disclose something, so I don't forget. So, is this a good time to do it, Chad?
Let's do it.
I'm going to disclose something. So, anybody who, I just find this funny, who follows me on Facebook, I just think that's hysterical that someone follows Jim Ford. I guess when you grow a bunch of orange pumpkins that I don't grow on purpose, I always say heavy is my favorite color. The last couple of years, I've grown a lot of orange pumpkins, and I don't dislike it. I don't like it. I go for heavy. But notice the last several weeks I've been putting out a lot of memes, and people really have enjoyed them. And want to know what app I use? I have no idea. There's a guy who does this for me, and I told him I'm going to reveal it. He's a humble guy. He just enjoys that other people are enjoying him. I said I'm tired of getting credit for him, so I'm going to do a shout out to Robert Cox. He's been doing this. Sometimes I get ideas and I send them to him, and he brings, he sends them to me, and comes out with some duds too. So, but I just want to give him a shout out that he's been making me look like I'm a creative genius.
Those are you're speaking my language as an elder millennial. The memes are my language. I was laughing out loud last night to the one that you guys posted about the soil calculator.
Yeah.
That's definitely me. I'm like, okay, yeah, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah. And it's funny because I have it downloaded on my computer, and for at least 10 years, and I don't know how to use it. So actually, that picture of Mike a couple of years ago was at actually our seminar. We had a breakout session, and he was literally going over the the Langley soil calculator, and people were looking over his shoulders. And so when Robert gave me that meme, I go, I have a picture connected to that. So so he comes up with some good ones too. I have one of your. Okay, I'll send it to you.
Oh, really?
Chad, yeah. So,
Nice.
I'll send it to you right now if I could talk and do that at the same time. So.
Yeah, so I'll take some of that off you. Now's a good time to. We're almost an hour in, so we do kind of want to wind it down. Jim has to drink some warm milk and go to bed pretty soon. So you all know what time it is. Jim has generously agreed to give us 3 sets of seeds. Seeds. What seeds are you going to give away tonight, Jim?
I have some old Mike Schmidt seeds that I'm never going to plant. So I have some 2551s, and let's throw a 2177 in there.
Holy moly! And in case you don't know, the 2177 is the seed that went 26% heavy and is bright screaming orange. So we've had about 80 people watching tonight. So we're going to do numbers 1 through 160. We're doubling our viewership. Numbers 1 through 160. Police your own numbers, comment, pick a number. Jason is going to post his email and pin it. So here's how it works. You post a number. At the end, I'm going to ask some AI to pick 3 or 4, probably 6 random numbers just in case we don't hit those. Maybe I'll do like a list and Jason can police that. Or anywho. But if you win, send an email to Jason, and then we will we'll connect with Jim to get you those seeds. I'm going to pick a number because I want some of those seeds too. There we go. Everybody's, holy moly, lots of numbers going in there. So pick a number. Try not to double pick. And you know what? Let's leave it. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it doubled. That gives us a good pool to pick from. And yeah. So now that we've kind of hit some of the basics, there is a lot of questions off to the side. And I'm trying to find one where I can pin it because this is what everybody wants to know, Jim. What is your secret to growing a pumpkin that's 26% heavy?
You said in the beginning before my picture came out, I accidentally grew a 2551. Since I believe you were accurate, I'm not ever expecting to grow a pumpkin 26% heavy again. So I really believe it has to do with calcium, amino acids, throw boron in there. Now, how I do it, the rate I do it, yeah, maybe give me a call, text me, whatever, and I'll tell you what I think I know. But I had a feeling even before. I have a feeling I was onto something this year. So I think that's part of it. But if you look up at the genetics of my 2177 and you go back to the pollinator of my 2015, it was the 1872 Sipple, and that plant produced a pumpkin that was 30% heavier.
Oh wow!
I lost it on the main vine. I mean, I lost my pumpkin in around July 22nd. I started another one. I took it to Cedarburg. It was a very late pollination because I wanted to get another pumpkin pollinated in case I need my third pumpkin for my jacket, blah, blah, blah. And it taped exactly 700 pounds, and it went 908, 30% heavy. And if you look at that, if you go on Pumpkin Fanatic, there's a picture there. Hey, that 908 kind of looks like the 2551. And so I think it came several generations from that. So
Interesting. Did you have, so talking about that pumpkin specifically, because I think that's everybody's wet dream is to have a pumpkin go 26% heavy. Did you have did you know, were you doing the thumb test and it just sounded like, a
I've never been good at the thumb test. I had people tell me, Russ Pugh, I showed some pictures of Russ Pugh. He goes, because I was getting cracking along the ribs, on the shoulders and the blossom end. He says, I had a pumpkin go 24% heavy to look like that. So I had a, I was fantasizing of 15% heavy, like 17 because 2147 Sipple, 17% heavy could it and I wouldn't allow we all do that then in the year, what if it goes 20% heavy?
right.
But just stop it, Jim. That's just crazy talk. Don't do that. So I knew it was going to go heavy, not by the thumb test, just by the type of growth cracks I was getting in it.
Now, what did that look like? Actually, let's ask this: what position were you when your pumpkin was weighed at the weigh off? Where were you in lineup, like 4th or 5th?
When it weighed, I was actually the heaviest one in the world.
Well, no, like at that weigh off itself.
Oh, at the weigh off itself? Oh, you mean inches wise?
Yeah.
I was there's probably 3 pumpkins bigger than mine. It was only taping 20, 30. So, yeah.
So I'm trying to drill down to like just what was that feeling when it went on the scale and it was taping, I don't know, 600 or 700 pounds less than it actually was. And what was that, what was that surprise? What was that feeling like? Describe it to us.
There's a long version that actually answer your question there. I don't know. It's at least a 3-minute story if you want it, or I could just say it felt really good. When your forklift guy, as he's pulling away from your driveway, going, "Hey Jim, I just Googled how much this machine could handle. Do you want to know how much?" I'm like, "Why is he saying this?" And I go, "Yeah, sure." He goes, 2,500 pounds. I go, like, why is he asking me? I go, were you having a hard time? Was your machine having a hard time picking it up? He goes, yeah. I'm like, so I knew something was there. And I had Pete Vanderwielen came to the patch because I wanted to bring my heaviest one. I picked 2 of them that day. I was going to go to a weigh off on Saturday and Sunday. My heaviest one to Altoona. So I knew that was the heaviest one. And Pete Vanderwielen called Pete Kaspers that night, and I didn't tell him to tell me. And Pete Kaspers texted me on my way to Altoona and says, "Jim, you're going to have a very good day." So I knew something was up. I still wasn't thinking 2,500 pounds. So
Nice.
I don't expect to ever be surprised like that on stage.
Travis wants to know, if he doesn't win, how can he buy some of your seats?
This is my standard question. I tell people I do sell my seeds on Don Langevin sites, world class pumpkin growers or world class seeds or whatever it's called. But I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years. Zero amount of people who have bought my seeds off of that, their names I don't recognize. They're outside our community. You're on Chad's podcast here. You're part of the Giant Pumpkin community. I don't sell my seeds to people. So just get a hold of me one way, shape, or form through Facebook. I don't know, are we friends on Facebook? But do not. Find me out, and we could work something out. You know. Go to Green Bay. You can buy me some cheese curds. So.
Oh man, there you go. I definitely owe you some cheese curds there for sure. Cheese curds.
Or steak. I might be filled.
Okay, next, Dr. Dave. Hey, Jim. I notice your pumpkins never grow over their blossom ends. Do you make an effort to train the pumpkin to grow blossom up?
I would never say never. So my 2365 last year, the last 60 days of that pumpkin's life, I never saw the blossom. Bye bye. I'll see you when I pick you up. So no, I just basically try to keep it, at parallel. I don't try to lift it up one way or other. I just try to keep blossom the stem perpendicular. Is that the term?
Yeah. And I'm looking up, I'm on tools.pumpkinfanatic.com. Andy Corbin was our first interview. The 2177 Ford was an 1885 Werner crossed with the 1935 Ford, which those two were the 2015 Ford, which was crossed with the 2283 Barlow Jacobus. I know a lot of those went heavy. But ultimately, we're at 1938.
That was an underplanted seed at 22.
It really was. There were some big ones out of that. And you have the 2145 McMullen. So before the, I would say probably fair to say before the 2365, was the hot seed that everybody wanted. Probably maybe the 1885, the 2145. Those are all in that same vein there. 1885, a known massive heavy pumpkin maker. What was the other big one that 1885 made, Jim? Do you know? Let's see here. Prodigy. Was it Travis one? The 85?
65. Wolf.
Yes. And the 2907 Peyton was off of the 1885 Werner. Yep, and the 2365 was the 1885. So, needless to say, that's a great seed.
I'll be honest with you. I'm probably more apt looking at my 1977 or my 2551 this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, and that pumpkin, if you guys don't know, so you go to tools.pumpkinfanatic.com, and I got to fix my screen sharing on this computer. It's really frustrating. I can't share this picture with you. But go there, just type in Ford, and then click on the 2177, and you could see these pictures of this pumpkin. It is like, was it a contender for the Howard Dill, Jim?
What's that? What's a Howard Dill? No disrespect to Howard Dill. He's our patron saint. But I've never won a Howard Dill. I've been rooked out a couple times. And I'm very bitter about it. 25 years, I've never won a Howard Dill. So
Yet.
I don't know. If I win one, I'll just giggle. If I ever win, I would.
And you get it tattooed on your chest.
There you go.
And yeah, so
Don't write that down.
really, really nice looking pumpkin, that 2177, and then your 2551, 26% heavy too. That one had like, kind of that front lean to it. Do you think is that the heavy shape?
You see this, on Facebook about a month or two ago. I showed a cut-away version. It was pretty thick all the way through. It was really thick on the bottom. That was most people want. Look how thick that is on the bottom. So
that was going to be one of my questions to you. So for those of you who are not looking at the pumpkin, or maybe you're not familiar with giant pumpkins, but around the back side of the pumpkin, we call the blossom end. Usually that's pretty thin. It looks like maybe this whole pumpkin, Jim, would it be safe to say that, man, it looks like it's 10 or 12 inches meat all the way around the whole thing?
Yeah.
There is no thin spots. It's just solid.
And it wasn't necessarily a dense pumpkin, but it was a thick pumpkin. I don't know if other people have noticed that some flesh seems like it's denser. More like, instead of pine, it feels like oak.
Yeah, I think I identify as oak myself.
Okay.
Dense. Let's see here. A couple more questions. We'll start to wrap it up. What does your starting mix look like, Jim?
I go to Menards, Pro Mix, and I don't do much to my seed when I'm germinating it. But yeah, I use maybe a little kelp meal, a little worm castings. I usually my plants get out in the patch pretty. I would say within a week and a half after the radical pops, they're in the soil. No more than 2 weeks. No more than 2 weeks. So I don't put a lot of, I know nothing of Grow Life, lumens. I can't tell you the first thing about them. I try to get them out in my hoop house, even in my pots, getting real sun. I'm like, okay, how many lumens sun? I don't know. I just try to get them real sun. So I don't spend a lot of time thinking of if anything, I've probably messed things up in the past, putting too much in my soil.
Do you use e-cables in the early spring?
Definitely.
Oh, so this is a good one. How do you have Clodhopper? You got some real good questions tonight. You are on it. How do you decide which 3 plants to put out in the patch?
I'm gonna assume after that's not a seed selection out of the ones that are germinated.
That's the next question.
If it's an 1885, I don't care what it looks like, it's going in, and but the nicest one, the nicest looking one, and that always doesn't produce. And if anyone ever saw the seedling of Steve Sperry's 2365 a couple of years ago that grew as 4665, if it wasn't a 2365, you would have tossed it. It
looks bad.
It was beyond bad. It was like, no way am I putting that in. So you never. I actually have a chapter in my book called the 582 Hester about a plant I gave away because it was a runt in Bruce Whittier, New Hampshire, 20 years ago. grew the second heaviest pumpkin in the world that year. And that runt that I gave away because I didn't like the way it looked. And the only pumpkin that beat it out was Charlie Horton's 1337 that year. So I gave away the second biggest pumpkin in the world that year.
Wow.
So yeah, so don't give up on a plant. If you like to see, don't give up on it. Unless it's really funky. But then again.
So now that we have 90 people in here, we're going to ask Jim a couple more questions before we let him go. Don't forget to pick your number. The range was 1 through 160. Don't double pick. There's lots of scrolling. Police yourselves. I ain't got time for that. So 2 questions. What are the goals that you're setting for yourself this year? And what is the hot seed? What are you growing this year?
My goal is 2552. I think the biggest thing I want to prove to myself that last year wasn't a fluke. I can't remember. I'm somewhere around 6,600 pounds worth of pumpkin. Someone did it for me. So I want to keep that up. The cumulative weight of all 3. I want to prove to myself that wasn't a fluke. So that's, and what hot seeds? What I think, I really like that Thompson seed out of Michigan. That 1T670. I really like that seed. So don't be surprised if that was my patch. I don't know. Was that an orange pumpkin?
I don't know. It probably was, since you love picking orange pumpkins.
So, and barren seed. For some reason, I have a stash of those. Maybe I should tell people. I don't know how I got so many of them. They grew Dave's and Carol's big one. But I'm probably going to go with my 52, 50, 25. I have dyslexic numbers. Probably my 2551 and my 1977.
Gotcha. I think about Don. Don's one of my. Don helps me a ton, and I want to grow one of his seeds, but I grow for orange. But there's something about just Don's boulders that I'm like, man, maybe if it's ugly, that's okay too.
So before midway during the season, because I've talked to Don a couple times at GPC events. And I never came out straight out and asked him, just talking to him. And I go, I think I know how he goes heavy. And I never, so I had this theory this year, and I called him around like early August. I go, Don, is this it? He goes, yep. So amino acids from Kelp for Less. I want my buddy Brandon from Kelp for Less saying, Jim, slow down. They're ordering it too fast. We can't produce it fast enough. So, and if you become a member of the WGPG, I don't have a Jim Ford code. You get 10% off. Join the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers.
Most definitely. And just, join multiple clubs, join your local clubs. That's the best way to shake somebody like Jim's hand and ask him questions in person. You'd really be surprised. The vast majority of pumpkin growers, if you ask us questions, if you're new, just the amount of information that we'll give you, because we're thankful somebody's asking us voluntarily and we're not forcing the information upon them when they don't ask.
Let me go back to that question about 30 minutes ago. How could I grow a 1,000-pound pumpkin? I'm glad you mentioned that. I tell people the secret of starting off is getting to know some local growers. Find a club. That's the number one secret. And go to their patch. First time I went to Jim Coon's patch, it just, go go to someone's patch.
Definitely. That is huge. The first few patch tours I went to, just seeing, like what people use, how they use it, how they grow. Because in the biggest thing that I always tell people, don't like do what I do. Don't do what Jim does. Look at what we do and then modify it to what works for you, because ultimately it has to work for you. What your patch is like, maybe it's not like what Mike's patch is like, however many miles down the road. Yes, it's past Jim's bedtime. So let's do this. I have typed all of the numbers into the chat GPT, and we've let the machines that are going to kill us all pick 10 numbers. I'm posting them in the chat. So I have to do 10 because what you have to do, and this is in order. Number 7, you're first. Number 7, send an email to Jason and say that I'm number 7, and this is my information. Unmute the cough. Number 23, send an email to Jason. It's pinned in the chat. Pumpkin Jason at iCloud. 56, 81, 19, 42, 99, 68, 12, and 34. We're going in order just so we have some buffers back there, because a couple weeks ago we had a few prizes that were not claimed, so we want to make sure that people get prizes. So Jason will police that is pinned in the chat. Jason, yes, it is pinned there. I see it. So Jason, just send him an email. If those are one of your numbers, include your email, your contact information. And if you forget something, it's okay. Jason will get back to you.
Could I add another one to
Absolutely.
10 pounds of Adam Taboyak filet walleye. He'll send it out. He'll ship it to you frozen. 10 pounds of walleye fillets. So he'll be glad to do that for you.
Oh man, are those gonna be shipped frozen, or are they gonna be shipped frozen initially and show up to you thaw?
Talk to Adam.
Excellent. And are we supposed to eat those, or do those get buried in the patch like Native American style?
Talk to Adam. He's an expert on that. Ask him his secrets on evaporating water.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, everybody, we have gotten Jim. Do you have anything to add? Any words of sage wisdom advice to leave us with this evening?
Just heavy is my favorite color.
And with that, Jim, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience of over the past 25 years with us. We really appreciate it. Personally, I can't wait to shake your hand and buy you some cheese curds and a Miller Lite in Green Bay. I look forward to it. Thanks for your time tonight, dude.
Okay, it was fun. Bye, everybody.
All right, guys, have a good one. If your number was picked, email Jason. Otherwise, you are SOL. If you don't know what that means, look it up. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks with a fresh interview. Hopefully, you're having a good winter and get ready for spring. You gotta try and beat Jim, and Jim's gonna beat you with a 27% heavy pumpkin. We'll talk to you next time.